the news on my end has been Summit in Calcimimetica, which is another biotech I'm looking into. Um, I really like to dig into these things before I make a move. So, I own, like I said earlier, a nominal position in Calcimimetica. It's had a major drop. I bought after the drop, but from 5 down to sub $1. And it doesn't look like the market is correctly pricing in because their trial was canceled, or called off because of their safety. But it doesn't look like, according to his statement, that the drug actually caused anything. So this is the one of the areas they're studying is acute kidney failure. I think they call it AKI, acute kidney incident or whatever it stands for. But anyways, so these patients generally have a lot of stuff going on. So to have a safety thing could be disrelated to the drug, essentially, is my point. So it looks like the market is overreacting. And I mean, again, this is not a summit. They don't have boatloads of cash. They don't have like a phase 3 trial coming out soon. This is definitely like, but it's priced that like, under the cash in the bank, not counting rid of debt. So it's super cheap, there's a decent amount of insider ownership. It's I'm still digging into it honestly, so nothing crazy, but it does look like, according to the official statement from the company, that um I'm just getting a warm feeling in my chest, let's put it that way. And I'm kind of like thinking, and so the stock has been sort of creeping up because it looks like people are starting to be like, oh wait, maybe this is so bad. Maybe this is gonna head back to 5 once they, restart the trial or whatever, anything that goes on where the company's sort of back in business on that sort of thing. And um I don't have enough certainty to really pull the trigger on this stock. I had that loss 2 years ago that it really, made sure that I'm trying to, have everything, all my research all done before I pull the trigger. So I'm still digging into it, and I do a lot of hours of research. So it's still ongoing thing because I have a life. I don't do this all full time. I'm not a portfolio manager or anything where I do 12 hours a day and dig into it and in a week be done or something like that. So, um, but yeah, the price is going up and I'm kind of like, wow, this is looking, everything right now looks green flag, no red flags. So that's good. No, I will accept no major insider buys. So I guess is that you would think the insiders would load the boat if they really thought it was cheap. So there is that red flag, but not great sign.
So is it fair to say if insiders are buying, this is Calcimimetica, right?
Yes.
Okay, if insiders are buying, would you follow? Let's say
I
Monday.
still wouldn't follow, but it would be like another reason for me to buy. I really need to dig into the. There's only so much, just a little bit of data that they released that either really sort of like holding the data close to the chest. We don't know how many people were reported dead or whatever, or having a serious incident that were mid to trial. Like there's a lot of lacking information. Trying to sort of extrapolate out what is the most likely scenario, what happened was the base case, and trying to wrap my mind around it. But if the insiders were buying, I would feel even more warm and fuzzy. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough. Any price target for that, or you're still just researching? Price target meaning entry points. I mean, obviously you say it's cheap now. I mean, you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, in terms of like fair value or whatever
Correct.
you want to call it, like let's just say they get approved for the kidney thing, which is like 300,000 people a year getting that, and I haven't gone through the pricing and all that, but you could just roughly sort of do a rough DCF of like $30 to $50 for the stock or whatever. But this is not a high probability scenario. This is something that's like sort of a worse than 50-50 odds at this point. It's probably more like a closer to a lottery ticket than 50-50 at this point with everything that all the information I have. Um, so the main thing is just the fact it's undervalued compared to like, let's say, because biotechs are valued based off of the probability of success, meaning like fair value, full value of the DCF of this company that's trying to tackle child cancer. A fair value is somewhere between, $50 and $100, and that's assuming FDA approval. And they have a phase 3 trial right now the market thinks there's a 50% chance success, and the DCF is, 30 to $50, let's just say call it 40 for easy math, it should be the market would price it at around $20. If you think it's 20 and right now it's trading at $3, then that's great. If the market's giving us such a low probability of something that's probably a 50-50 in this theoretical scenario, then that's, maybe worth putting a small, at least a small position in. Um, but with some, I think the odds are even more extreme than that. So yeah, that's just kind of an idea of what's going on.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to add? Because I was going to go into just regular everyday news.
Yeah, go ahead, hit
Okay,
it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so just in terms of giving people, because this is somewhat of a journal, somewhat of a podcast, somewhat of everything, giving people context to today, so you can, if you're rewinding. Today it's 3/15/2026, as Dylan, thank you, thankfully corrected me. And right now we've got some instability right now in the Middle East. We touched on that a little bit last week. Right now we're seeing oil creep up above $100. We're seeing the Strait of Hormuz kind of close, but kind of not. Iranians are kind of saying it's not closed, but then insurance rates for shipping is going up. And I mentioned this to my brother yesterday. I don't care about insurance rates, man. If I'm a sailor, I don't want to get my butt blown up.
Captain, if you want to go through there, I'm staying in the port.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm gonna stay back in Oman or Dubai, guys, with my cocktail and sit on in the desert before I get on a boat over there.
I may
So
not be rich, but I don't want to die.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So we still got some instability there, but Dylan and I have kind of discussed this kind of off camera. Maybe we did it for a little bit on camera. But if you look at it, Ukraine was just as scary as the situation, really. And then the market ended up processing it, digesting it, ended up working through it. The war is still in Ukraine is still going on, folks.
Unstabilized. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially, no matter what, and you see this with COVID, you see this with, like I said, Ukraine. You saw that eventually the market will have to process it, and it is just what it is, right? There's going to be no more quote unquote sticker shock or shock anymore. I don't know what you think about that, Dylan. If you want me to keep going, or you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I would phrase it is sort of like you have this uncertainty around this saying, are nuclear weapons going to be used or whatever? And there's all the investors being like, what does this mean? How do I reprice this? All the companies are probably in that area are probably dropping their valuations because of the war. They might get hurt or restricted or whatever. And it just, there's a whole repricing, uncertainty, whatever that goes on. And once that happens, if it just stabilizes, there's no major changes. Or like people are killing each other all the time on planet Earth. Like, if you don't think that's, I mean, yeah, of course it's bad, but like, it's just the way. Go look at any history book, the last 100 years, and there's people killing each other, and that just happens. And it'd be great if it didn't, but it does. So you just need to think with that.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to that. Yeah. So that's essentially what we're kind of looking at right now is we have a VIX which is elevated, Pope 24, 25 ish. Um, so you're seeing some skittish, you know what I mean? It's not crazy elevated. It's not 50, 60. Over 40 is panic crisis. We're not at panic crisis yet. I can't tell you when the top is. I can just tell you that historically, back in the war in Ukraine, I think it got up to about 38. I think we peaked at about 31, 32. And I think that was maybe Monday, sometime last week. I can't quite remember, but last week. So have we hit peak yet? I don't know. It's all depending.
Peak VIX, you mean, right?
Yeah, peak VIX, peak VIX, peak volatility index, peak VIX. I can't tell you whether or not we hit peak VIX. If I were a betting man, I would guess probably yes. I mean,
Me
55,
too. I don't know
because
what the poly market is, but I'm gonna say it's all downhill from here.
yeah, yeah. I mean, is that what you say, Dylan? I mean, again, we can't. This is. By the way, folks, we're not soothsayers. We don't have that. I told you, we don't have that culture. We're not looking in. This is just for fun. Before we go
Just
on.
looking at historical precedents and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
what do
I
you
don't
think?
think
Yeah, what
there's
do you
anything
think?
likely to, with all the information I have, I think it's likely to, the conflict is likely to stabilize or de-escalate, and not increase, is my assumption.
And it's safe to say, I don't know about you. I think I know your answer. I have not switched my S&P 500 target at all? Have you?
No, no, I think this is, the great thing about the US market is, people kill each other all over the world, obviously, but people generally don't bother the US. The military have the giant oceans between us and our two neighbors are Mexico and Canada. And that is a huge advantage compared to, a Ukraine or a China or South Africa or virtually any other country.
By the way, hello
Maybe
Canucks and hello mi Padres if you're listening.
who?
Hola, hola mi Padres.
Padres, what? Oh,
Amigos,
Canadian
amigos.
and Mexican, is
Come
that what you're
on,
saying?
Dylan. I gotta get you. I gotta get you. I gotta get you on this. But go on.
Okay, cool. Anyways, point being that, and also the US is sort of self-contained. We have a bunch of our natural resources and everything. So we kind of can be a little bit aloof from a lot of conflicts. So it's an advantage we have. And, so.
Yeah, and most of the oil coming from the Strait of Hormuz is mostly going to Asia for the most part. Vast
Yeah, we
majority.
make a ton of oil ourselves. So this is not like this is our lifeline. I mean, I learned recently or read, should I say, I'm gonna say I learned, I read that China imports half the food it needs. And I think that's just scary for a country. And you think of all the potential disasters for China, importing all this oil, this food, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so glad the US is not in that state. People talk about, oh my God, China's doing great, it's gonna take over the world. I'm like, I wouldn't want to be China if I was the US in a million years. That country's got some serious issues. Anyways.
Yeah, we'll get to that for another podcast. But what I wanted to do talk about is something we both own. Something two people, they'll name anonymous, to be anonymous, wanted me to talk about, and that's gold. And we'll dive right into it.
Gotta love the gold.
Gotta love the gold. Gold has been um, money or worthwhile, whatever you want to call it, valuable,
Store value.
store of value. Perfect, perfect, perfect term, Dylan. For thousands of years, we can agree on that, correct? 2 to 3
Yeah.
thousand years. Um, since the time of the Romans, etc., those gold coins are still worth something today, and that's not just has to do with numismatic; it has to do with the actual physical properties of gold, right? Now, I believe.
On that note, I will say, so my sister has a jewelry fetish, and her jewelry, her gold jewelry, even though she's buying it retail, so if she sells it, she gets only jewelry. Her jewelry is worth more now than when she bought it. Because she bought
Yeah,
most
right.
of it years ago. So now the gold has skyrocketed. She can resell her, at melt value at more than she bought it. So
Yeah,
even like on a man on the street level, it's still a great store of value in that sense.
yeah, it's an excellent store of value. I mean, if you look at historically, it could pretty much buy you what it could back in the days to today. So maybe back in the day, it could buy you a suit, you know what I mean, and
Or house.
yeah, or whatever it may be. An ounce of gold could, an ounce of gold. What's it going? It's going for about 5,000 right now. It's pulled back a little, actually a lot. I think we were at
Wasn't it a bit over 5,000? That's
it
the last
was,
price
but
I saw earlier this morning.
oh, right now, literally, it's $5,005. So
So a hair over five
yeah, it's
as
a
of
hair
now. Yeah.
above five. So what can $5,000 get you today? You know what I mean?
Decent
Uh,
amount. Used car.
yeah, very, yeah, maybe, yeah, I could probably get a used car,
Get you a used car for sure.
yeah, older used car,
Yeah, yeah, old used car. Yeah,
old used car, yeah, I can get you an old used car, um, with a lot of miles on it,
true.
but yeah, yeah. So $5,000 can get you a lot.
Amazing suit, rent for 2 months or a month, depending on where you live, a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of things. So it's kept up its value, roughly purchasing power. Now you're not going to get rich on it unless sometimes you do have spikes, right? And now we're I would argue we are kind of through a spike right now, but it's always been.
You might got a little rich on this, haven't you?
My mouth is zipped, but my mouth is zipped about that. But all I can tell you is that I look at it as not it should be it shouldn't be a vast majority of your net wealth. It shouldn't equal more than about 20, 25%, 25% at absolute maximum now. I like it over bonds. Central banks are obviously owning a lot of it. And if you look at the history, I mean, at one point the US made it illegal to own gold. in the country.
Crazy. For
And
years. It's
that only became, if I look here, I think it was in the 70s when it was
74 or
70.
76
Yep, you're right.
that was legalized.
Yeah, reverse in 1974, you could own gold bullion again, you know.
Yeah.
And
US
guess
citizens.
what? Ever since then, gold was pegged at, I don't know, maybe 30, $50 an ounce or something like that. Now it's thousands, right? Whereas $100 bill, right? What does that get you now? Not much.
Toilet
Telling I
paper. Yeah,
keep
yeah.
telling everybody, don't stay in that fiat, man. Don't stay in that. Don't save don't hold on. I think I have some in my pocket. Let me just see.
Ah! I'll save
No,
that toilet
not much.
paper.
Not much. Don't save this. This. Oh, sorry. You probably. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
see
one
it.
fuzzy, one fuzzy. There we
Not
go.
fuzzy. Okay.
Now hold
All
it
right,
still for a second.
ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be worth less year
Pull
after.
pull a little away from the camera though. It's a
Hold
little
on.
fuzzy.
You
There we
got it?
go. Now it's sharp.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this $20 bill, yes, it can get you some goods and supplies. But
Your lunch, yeah, cheap lunch.
every single year, you're going to get a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. If they had to reprint this garbage every year for how much it's worth in purchasing power, you wouldn't be saving it. Period. So there goes my little promo there about cash. So yeah, I personally believe, and now it goes down to what type of gold do you own? Do you own GLD? Do you own physical? Do you own rounds? Do you own coins or whatever? I think that should also be a mix. That's on you. You know what I mean? That's on your personality. If you do buy
And
physical,
what's the main thing an investor is getting in that? Like, what's someone with a decent net worth that's saved, invested, whatever. Like my sister and her husband, they have $1 million net worth. They don't consider themselves rich, but like, what's the main thing they would get out of switching to? Because it's all in 401k money, primarily 401k IRA money. What would be the main thing they would get out of it, in terms of benefiting them?
yeah, they would get, first of all, taking it out of the quote unquote system. And I'm not talking about taxes or whatever. That's a whole thing. I'm not saying be illegal, whatever. It's going out of your system and there's no counterparty risk. You've got nobody else, a bank or anybody holding it. You can physically touch it. You
So you're
own
saying
it.
that $1 million, because it's all in the bank, and they could be like, you know what? Actually, we decided you can access your account for the next year due to blah. Yeah.
Happened before. You've seen history. You
I mean,
know?
it happened to me. I
Yeah.
know I was trying to transfer $20,000 in Ally Bank. Thank you very much, douchebags.
We'll edit that.
They screwed me over for 7 weeks just because they can. And in their contract it says, we have the right to verify you, and there's no end date to that, so they can verify you, which they did 9 times. They could verify you forever, and they just basically can refuse, sort of like a little loophole in their contract. And there's tons of loopholes in there that they can play that game, and they can just not pay you and just not do anything. I felt like going down and knocking on the door in downtown, their headquarters, and being like, hey, who the hell is screwing me over,
Yeah, I mean,
This is not something that only happens to like one out of a
yeah,
million
no,
people. Like, people get
and
screwed
no,
all the
that
time.
here's another thing people, and I'm going off tangent, but I think it's very important. Cyber crimes, man. Cyber crimes are becoming, you know what I mean? I mean, you see all these banks, like, just your information is being whatever, and you get hacked out, your money somehow gets hacked out, right? I mean, it takes time and stuff to get it back. If you get it back, right? You
Yeah.
gotta still kind of prove that that's your money. Am I being a little bit too crazy on that?
No. I mean, I
George?
think in terms of like, I mean, the bank thing, like, I could just give tons of stories. Like we were trying to transfer the down payment, and then Navy Federal just wouldn't do a same day wire of over $5,000. So like, you're like, what's going on here? Because now then the lenders demanded. So there's all sorts of ways you can get screwed by the bank, because at the end of the day, they're holding your money and they owe it to you, and they could just not pay you, just like you could not pay your credit card if you don't want to, like you
Well,
can
yeah,
just.
and that's another thing we're going to get into is that one of these. I've been telling you this, folks, but nobody really wants to talk about it. This is another vegetable thing. Is we will get into the Federal Reserve and banks and how much they need to actually have inside the
We
bank.
should do a whole episode. You're right. We didn't talk
Will.
about that
That's
earlier.
very
We should go
important.
into
I
a whole
don't care what
episode.
it.
I'd love to just go into dirty
We would
details.
love to discuss that, but right,
Yeah,
yeah,
how the sausage
we
is made, because it's pretty eye-opening for most people, I think.
it's extremely eye opening, and I know it's like PBS. It's not going to get much views, but I don't care. It's
but it's still awesome.
yeah, it's awesome. It's too important to not. But back, okay, reeling it back into the gold. So, not a, I don't think very high. Well, let me rephrase this. There are some societies where gold is extremely important. The Indian society really, really, really values gold, particularly physical gold, right?
Yeah, it's
They've
physical,
seen
holding
it
physical,
as
right?
well. US has kind of gone more into paper assets. I mean, is that kind of paper assets meaning stocks and stuff? Do you feel that's kind of true, Dylan, or no? Do you just feel
Yeah, I don't know any friends or family that have a large, besides you, that have a pretty decent amount of their net worth in gold. So it's a little bit niche or niche or whatever. It's sort of like you have a weird uncle or something, you know what I mean, or like a sort of odd coworker or whatever. But like you know, your mom, your uncle, your brother, like they don't really have a lot of their money in gold. A lot of it's all in their house and stocks and you know blah 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 blah, like private businesses or whatever. And there's certainly pros and cons to that. But you know, it's not as popular here as it is in, you know, other countries. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So and we're just going to get into this. I mean, for me, here's the issue with owning physical is normally you're going to pay something called spot price, right? Spot is essentially what you're seeing on the screen,
Thicker. Yeah,
right? On the
CBC,
ticker. You
Google.
normally pay north of spot because there's a spread that people need to make some type of profit off of it.
The broker make a profit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It has spread.
although there are times where you can get it below spot. Like right now, I know I'm going off on a tangent. Right now, you can get silver for below spot because there's so much supply out there. They're looking to get rid of it. So all I'm saying is that market factors still play even in the spot. I'm telling you.
Supply demand.
The thing is, and this is the thing I learned, and this is something, you know, I make mistakes too, is that unlike you have a central bank to go at to sell your gold, to sell your silver, you're selling it literally to a business that needs to make profit. So they can easily just say, no, I'm not taking it. I don't have the type of money to do whatever you need to do. Then where do you go? You need to go to an open market of somebody who has market.
Yeah, Craigslist or yeah, yeah, online or you know, another business or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you need so that's something to really think about, guys. For those who you own physical, which a lot of people want to unload it, right? Because they've seen triple their profits, but somebody else has to buy it, right? Somebody else
They have
needs
the
to buy it.
cash in their account, the fiat, you know, in their account or in their safe or whatever to give it to you when you walk in.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a kind of misdemeanor where if I'm trading paper, it's just the SLV or GLD. It's just a click of a button. Much easier to get in and out. So
Yeah.
what's the rectified? Again, you guys can decide whatever you want to do. I do a percentage in paper where it can get in and out of the trade fast, and a percentage in physical. You know what I mean? That's what I do. Whatever your percentage is, that's on you. But as an overall thing of the pie, you're back to your original question. Say your sister who has $1 million net worth and zero access to gold, zero access to miners, zero access to GLD. Although your sister does technically, she's got a gold jewelry. So that is not theory. That is she is
Yeah, I guess you're
she's
right.
in
She
the
does have
market.
some a decent amount, you know, a small percent of her net
Well, even if
worth.
it's an ounce, I mean that's $5,000. You know what I
She's
mean?
got way more than an ounce
Okay,
and
well then,
she's
okay, well
fetish,
then,
so maybe
okay,
10 ounces total. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, okay. So do the math. 10 times. That's still okay. So then you're already right there. You've already
50K.
got 50 grand, which is 5%. Hold on, sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, 5 grand, which is 50%, 5% of her net wealth right there, and just jewelry. I would consider that. I mean, I don't know where you're going on this. I would consider that you're already invested somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, she was telling me women don't really think of a jewelry as investment because they're never going to sell it. But I'm like, yeah, but if times get hard, you know, depression or whatever, you know, like if you get hungry enough, you're going to eat, you know, trash. You're going to eat anything. Pretty much any human will. Um, I think that's just sort of like they really don't prefer not to sell
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, so back to the back to the thing. I don't know where I'm going with this. We don't need to go that further into it. It's been currency for a long time. It does very good under when when people are not people. what am I saying? Rude.
People are not people.
Governments are not using their their currencies very wisely, I guess. What's the term I'm looking for, Dylan? When governments are not being fiscally responsible. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly what I'm looking
It's
for.
sort of a reset the baseline, and and that's what the seem like the central banks are the game they're playing is like, look, this thing is going to end at some point. This whole fiat US based system is not going to last forever. There's an end date at some point, and it looks like at the end of a table, the person with the most gold is going to be, at the head of the table deciding. Because the Bretton Woods decision was basically like, okay, cool, all the country get together and they're like, good. Who the hell owns what? How much money we all gonna have? Like, how are we gonna work this all out? And the whole financial system, switched from the British to the. No, I mean, I wasn't there. I don't have detailed transcripts of the whole thing, but essentially, everyone switched over to the U.S. system. In the Bretton Woods 44, 45, right around that time period. Now, what it looks like is there going to be another Bretton Woods, and what's the system as everyone's, and it could be next year, it could be in 20 years, whatever it is. Looks like the central banks are saying like, look, in this time of like, there's no dominant fiat because it's the US dollar, the dominant, it seems to be sort of declining with this massive unsustainable debt. Like what's going to happen now seems to be a reset to gold. At least historically, that's what's going to happen. So we reset the gold, and then now everyone's going to sort of recalibrate what the international money structure is going to look like.
Yeah, and for those of you just going, the Bretton Woods system was a system from 44 to 71, where if you were to have American money, you could go to a bank, presumably I was before I was born, and get a specific amount of gold for that money. This is a very simplistic way for it. Am I right on that, Dylan? It was backed.
Yeah, on the country level, not the individual level, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, on the country level, they
Like in
could.
so the dollar used to be the U.S. Treasury would have I think a 20th of an ounce for every dollar, and you could go to the U.S. Treasury office and they would be equivalent. They obviously stopped that millions, tons of hundreds of years ago, or at least over 100 years ago, and now it's no longer pegged to a dollar. But the dollar used to originally be, on a country level that was the case until Nixon took us off in 76, I think it was. But yeah.
Yeah. So on that, and ever since whatever it was, 71, now you're seeing government can suddenly print all the money they wanted. There's no real,
Breaks.
yeah, no, not much of a consequence for them to
Yeah,
do
I
it.
mean they can screw over their citizens, which governments really have historically speaking had no problem doing that. So it's very likely to happen again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And gold hit in 1980, not long after Bretton Woods, $800 an ounce after that. You know what I mean? So I think it was, I want to see what it was. I'm curious of what it was before 1971. Hold on one second. Um, I want to say it was below 100 for sure.
Can you share your screen so we can watch you
Hold on.
the chart?
Well, it's not that important.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want to see this. But yeah, keep talking, Dylan, on gold if you want to go. I'm just gonna check it out.
Sure. So in times of like historically speaking, in times of high stress, people don't really trust the paper, don't trust other entities to, retain their, because paper is all generally a promise. Like when you got a million shares of IBM in your account, you don't actually own IBM. You're just hoping that, Joe and Bob and Smith, they all honor your the money you paid and all that sort of stuff. This is sort of a high trust environment sort of way, and the world is sort of descending towards a more lower trust environment where countries kind of don't trust each other as much. People don't trust their governments as much. COVID and everything that's gone on. So when you don't trust, you pull back from the paper and you go to land, ammo, guns, gold, self-sufficiency, all this sort of stuff. That's kind of where historically what happens, from what I've read and all that sort of stuff. So that seems to be a phase the U.S. The whole world is switching over to, is a more low trust environment.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Perfect. I got it right now. Sorry. For some reason, I always got confused whether it was 25 or 50. It was pegged at $35 an ounce, Dylan, in 1971, and it skyrocketed gold to 800 9 years later.
Oh my
two
God.
thousand percent increase.
That could
So
happen again if there's
it,
some
it,
new, whatever.
I mean, it's already. I mean, we were at, what was it, 10 years ago? We're at in the 2000s. Now we're at over 5,000 as being the market. So you're kind of seeing. So gold does well under instability, wars, bad fiat. If you don't think and Dylan and I always say this, we'll get into politics one of these days, Dylan. But if you don't, this current government or the Trump government, if you don't think they're going to be fiscally responsible,
I
I would stay in
mean, I
gold.
voted for Trump, but I don't think he's gonna be fiscally responsible.
Okay, yeah. So, I didn't vote for him, and I didn't think he's going to be
Obviously,
fiscally responsible. But I'll tell you that much is that
we both agree on that. There's
yeah, we
no way
both
this guy can be fiscally
we both
responsible.
definitely agree on that. So let's assume he's going to be in for the next 3 years or whatever. I would not be selling all my gold or
Hold on,
sure,
my gold.
sure,
At least until the end of his term.
yeah, at least until the end of his term. You know what I mean? You really actually, there's a little pro tip. You actually want to buy gold during stable times for unstable times, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so a great time to buy would have been right before 2001, 9/11. I mean, I'm dating myself here, but it was a long time ago. I mean, I wasn't investing back then, but I think gold was at like $300 or $400 an ounce, right? Now you're way above that because that was a very stable time in the US. We had a very low debt to GDP, fiscally responsible. We had a budget surplus, believe it or not. Believe it or not, guys, for all your kids out there who are like 25 or under, we used to have extra surplus money. We weren't spending $1 trillion
Federal
a
government.
year. Yeah, we weren't spending $1 trillion a year. We were getting money in. Those days seem like a long time ago, but
Yeah, it's still possible to come back, but it seems extremely unlikely.
yeah, I wouldn't bet on that one, but yeah,
So,
so that's kind of the skinny on gold. I mean, just a couple of other. I think I have some notes here. Uh,
you have well, before we jump on the
yeah,
thing,
go
like,
ahead.
do you have a price target or an estimate, like in 5 years, 10 years, any sort of idea or?
Oh yeah, great question. I can see it get to 10,000 within 2030. 10,000 an ounce within 2030.
4 years, okay.
Yeah, within 4 years.
That's mainly with the dollar, the US government debt just basically continuing to climb.
Government debt, and Dylan and I have kind of discussed this, but once the interest rate becomes 30%, 30 cents of every dollar goes to paying off the debt, which should happen about 10 to 15 years in their current level, then you're going to see a major debt crisis. In my opinion, again, I hope not, because it's going to be not good for people living in the US, but I think then you're going to see gold skyrocket, no question. I
We
mean,
did
you're
have this
already
in World
seeing.
War II, though. In the end of World War II, we had a very high debt level, and the bondholders, the people that loan the U.S. government money, got screwed. Back then,
Yeah,
it had a whole sort of structured way. It's not like the whole country fell apart and stuff like that. It used to be a whole like a room, and everyone used to get together and be like, "Okay, cool. So how are we gonna do this? Because the way we're working right now is ain't gonna work."
yeah. So you could see. Look. We can predict what's going to happen or whatever. It's hard to know in 10 years what's going to happen, but don't see. I don't see us paying off the credit card anytime soon, just based on the way things are going. You know what I mean? And there's got to be something. There's got to be a major. We're seeing like a major. So I hope it does. We're gonna